Carleen Johnson, state government reporter with the Center Square. So the federal tax credit program for education could, most recent estimates, conservatively bring in about $732 million every year for K-12 education, and more than half the states in the country have adopted into that program. Now, if Governor Ferguson does not opt our state into the program, Washingtonians basically are going to make that tax credit donation in support of K-12 education in other states. I know you're opposed. Why are you opposed to keeping that money here? It could be used for K-12, it could be used for private school, tutoring, transportation, any educational expense. Why are you so vehemently opposed?
Those are your words, Carleen Johnson from the Center Square. I'm not vehemently opposed. I want it to go back to Congress because it's so ill-conceived. It doesn't have rules around it, doesn't have shape around it. You have unelected officials who are going to control potentially hundreds of millions of tax dollars. You're going to send public tax money to private institutions potentially. We don't have guidance yet from the U.S. Treasury Department. They put out sort of political statements, but no real guidance. So what I have said is families with kids in schools, consistent with this affordability approach, absolutely need a tax credit for having kids for school, public and private. That can be done through the tax code, not by the state picking and choosing kids who are going to get scholarships to fund religious education. I don't think that's appropriate, but there's a way to get every family, public or private, some more help. And I think if it goes back to Congress and they actually turn this into a tax credit for families, that's the way to go. If they don't choose to do that and they say it's up to each state, I suspect at some point we will be in, and we should be in, if we can control what that looks like. Giving it over to people who are unelected and unaccountable to drive taxpayer money into religious institutions and for-profit schools is not consistent with our values.
You're suggesting that people would give all that money to private schools or religious institutions when that but that's your talking point. That's not what people have suggested. Many people have said, I'd love to use it for a tutor for my kid who I love my public school, or I need it for transportation purposes, any kind of thing like that. So to suggest that it's just going to take away from public schools is probably not a fair assessment of how many people might use that credit.
Yeah, again, your words. I didn't say it takes away from public schools. This is a tax credit. So what it does do is it has the federal government selling more debt to foreign interests, racking up $38.5 trillion in debt that we're unloading on our kids to say, take a few bucks now to go where you want. That's what the Congress has chosen to do. I want our state to be able to put this in the hands of accountable elected officials or a board that's accountable directly. And yes, everyone can benefit from that. That's what's clear. The bill in its conception, though, was a privatization movement, and the afterthought was, and I guess some public school students might use it for tutoring. I just want the state to be able to decide that and not the federal government.